Well, Jason, old friend, it has been some time since we last recorded. Glad that we are still apparently doing this podcast thing. How have you been?
Yep.
How have you been?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just talked over you. Yeah, pretty good. Not a lot has
Cool.
happened since we recorded the last episode. Well, I take that back. A lot has happened.
Yes.
Not to me, but to like the tech world.
Right. A lot of stuff that we discussed in previous episodes is now old news. And on this episode, I think we should focus on three main things that we have missed since our last recording. Those are the hardware announcements that got dropped in press releases last month, and then the keynote from the end of last month, and finally everybody's favorite non-shipping product, AirPower. So, once again, I am your co-host Uluru, and I'm joined by my good friend Jason, and this is episode 5, I think, of The Flock. Alright, so first up we have the three main press releases that Apple had for us early-ish in March. So the first thing that they released was the two new iPads, the Air and the Mini. And correct me if my analysis is wrong, I think they're basically just spec bumps to old body styles of iPads, sort of like leftovers from different iPads that already existed combined into these more modern ones.
Yes, I think you're right.
Okay.
So they only added one or two things, just like to the screen. The screen is slightly different to the Apple Pencil work.
Yeah, there's nothing that has not been in an iPad before. Like, it's not like the pros that are pushing the technology forward, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because these are mid-range products for more entry-level consumers than pros.
Yeah.
So it's good that they have the iPad Pro for pros and the non-pros for consumers. We shouldn't just ask them to make the pros cheaper because that's not how the technology works. So the iPad Mini, colloquially referred to as the iPad Mini 5, is basically just a spec bump of the Mini 4 that also includes Apple Pencil support. And it has a True Tone display, I think probably a wider color gamut too. It's basically just like if you want an iPad Mini and you don't want one from 2015, this is the iPad for you. It's still geared toward people who want a smaller device because it's not the cheapest one. The cheapest one is the 9.7-inch model that's kept around from last year. But I think it's a pretty good value for what you get. You get 64 gigs of storage, an A12 processor, which I was not expecting, and basically just a refreshed iPad Mini. So that's nice. And then the Air is basically a successor to the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, I think. It's filling in the slot that was filling in the lineup before. Previously, they had dropped the Pro down to in between the iPad and the iPad Pro. Now it's sort of been dropped a little lower. It's faster. It does not have ProMotion. It's basically just a new iPad, and they wanted to call it something different, so they called it Air. Don't get me started on the naming because it could have been much simpler.
Yeah. At least they're not going USB's route.
Oh, yeah. That would have been chaotic.
Yep. iPad Air Gen 2x2 is the whatever model this one is.
iPad Air Super Speed.
Yeah.
So I basically think of the iPad line now as three main products, and two of them are available in different sizes. So there's the very entry-level $329 9.7-inch iPad, which is really only there for people who want a cheap iPad. Yeah. And then there's the iPad Air and iPad Mini, which they're essentially identical except for the fact that one of them has a smart connector and one of them is bigger than the other. Other than that, they're identical. They have the same specs. They're essentially the same product. And then there's the iPad Pro, which is the one product in two sizes. Other than the size, they're absolutely identical. So it's really three iPads, essentially. But it's being sold as 5 different iPads, which understandably can be confusing to some. But I think the iPad line itself, like regardless of the marketing or positioning, I think everything else about the iPad line is in really good shape. It has something for everyone at every price point, and it's in much better shape than the MacBook lineup right now, for example, where it's confusing as to which ones are for which people, and obviously the keyboards are an issue, but we won't get into that. Are you interested in either of these new iPads? Like, which one would you prefer?
I think probably I would get the new Air, because I like the screen size, and it's just kind of an iPad. It's not underpowered or way overpowered for what I would ever use it for.
Yeah.
But the Mini also looks interesting to me, because it's like a Kindle.
Yeah, I have
really
a second
small.
generation Mini from like 2013. I didn't get it in 2013. I got it a few years after it was released at a discounted price. I really like the screen size. For some people, I've seen that iOS 12 has made devices slower, but iOS 12, like the jump from 11 to 12, was pretty significant in terms of the processing power it can now handle. Like previously, gestures in iOS 11 would take a while to register, but iOS 12 feels like not like super powerful, and certain things are kind of slow, but it's not like totally run down anymore. It's good enough for things like Twitter and stuff. And I don't need to expect too much of it because it's got a smaller screen, so I don't really use it for anything productive. Which isn't to say the iPad isn't a computer. I'm not trying to say that. Just my iPad is not in a position where it needs to be super powerful.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I would want to get another Mini, because whenever I get another iPad, I'm going to start thinking about how I can use it for more of my workflow, because I am sort of disappointed in the way the Mac has been treated recently. And also, I just like iOS. It's really nice to use. And one of the larger iPad Pros would definitely take some of the load off of my slightly aging MacBook Air, and would allow me to do sort of an experiment in how I want to do my computing. So yeah, I'm starting to see iOS as more of a major computer platform for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the iPads are good. They're good for people who just want an iPad and can use it for basically anything. They're good generic iPads. They're nothing major. They're really not that new in and of themselves, but the way they package all the technology into a relatively affordable device is good. So kudos to Apple. So that was on Monday of I think it's probably 3 weeks ago now that press release was dropped. And then the following day, on Tuesday, Apple launched updates to the iMac line. I tweeted something about this, and then you made a response to what I said. I didn't respond at the time because I wanted to talk about it on this episode, and then a few weeks passed by and we didn't record. So let's talk about the major beef that I have with the iMac line right now. It's that
is that the one where I had the mini rant?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So my complaint about the new iMacs is that they still sell a 21.5-inch entry-level model with a hard disk instead of an SSD. So first you can explain what the justification for that is, and then I'll explain my problems. Okay.
So I don't remember if I don't think I was for now I definitely know I'm not for just a hard drive, but I don't think it should be drop the hard drive and go straight to solid state, especially for a desktop.
Okay.
Solid state they're smaller capacity, but they're really fast. It'd be really expensive to put a really large 2 terabyte drive in an iMac with all the space that's in it. The reason they do it in the laptops is because they don't really have enough space to fit a regular hard drive. A hard drive is good for, a spinning hard drive is good for just large capacity, just holding stuff there without always needing to access it.
Mm-hmm. So for a time capsule.
Yeah.
Nice. So what you're talking about they should keep are the fusion drives, where it's part
Yes.
SSD and part hard disk. Okay.
Yes.
So with those, do you know if they suffer from the same problems of slowness that like exclusively hard drive iMacs would all have? Or
It's definitely slower than just straight out a solid state drive, but it is a whole lot cheaper to go that way.
okay, and it's not as miserable, I take it.
No, it's
Okay.
there's a big difference between only hard drive and a fusion drive, but not a huge difference between solid state and fusion drive.
Okay. So I guess I don't really disagree with anything you said there. The one model that I don't like is the one, like the entry level, I think it's $1099, the
Yeah.
iMac with just a hard drive. I think Apple should just like
Yeah.
not even sell an iMac at that price point if they can't give it at least part SSD. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, like they're going for a user base that they don't want to capture, because then the people who are going to end up just getting a bad computer will remember a Mac as their bad computer, which they shouldn't want to do. They should let them
Yeah.
go to Windows, and the Mac is for people who want a good computer, not a
Yeah.
heavily compromised one. So other than that, other than like a few thermal issues with like how much of a performance push the iMacs can handle in their current body style, for most people I think the iMacs are pretty good if you just want a desktop, because most people aren't going to push the thermal envelope of an iMac. But if you want something even more powerful, you can go for the iMac Pro. So even though it's not completely limitless in what it can do, I think the new iMacs are pretty good.
Yeah.
So like they're now at the stage where I would actually like recommend them to somebody who's asking what desktop they should get, because previously they hadn't been updated since like 2017, I think. So then do you have anything more to add to the iMac topic?
Not really, I don't think.
Okay. So then the third thing that Apple announced in a press release was that AirPower is dead. Nope, there was one more thing. It was the updated AirPods model. So you don't use AirPods, you use Beats X or Beats
Yes.
10 or whatever
Beats,
they are.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Beats, the character that's like a tilted cross. Yeah. So I have the first generation of AirPods, which I had to take off to do this recording because the microphone audio sounded like crap when I was trying to talk to you via the AirPods. But other than for podcast recording, it seems I really like the AirPods. And even though I got them only 2 months before they were refreshed, there's nothing that makes me jealous of these ones that makes me want to upgrade. I don't have any need for the ability to charge them wirelessly. Hey Siri isn't that big of an appeal to me because I rarely use Siri. Oh,
Go ahead.
darn it, I set off my phone. So, yeah, the thing where you talk to Siri is not that important to me because I don't talk to Siri that much unless I accidentally activate it. And the improved latency for gaming and the improved pairing time and switching between devices, that really doesn't justify a massive investment for me. In the past 2 months, or almost 3 months now, in which I've gotten to use the AirPods have been blissful. So I would not trade that for updated ones where I would have to go 3 more months without with wires. So basically, I'm just happy with my decision, and I recommend the current new ones just as much as I would recommend the old ones. They're really good. You should buy them now because you're not sacrificing $159 for when you buy the next generation that comes out a week later. But yeah, so I'm curious to see what the future updates to the AirPods will offer when they have things like water resistance or noise cancellation. Both of those things would be really appealing to me. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad to be in for the long haul and wait for more significant updates.
Yeah. There is a new announced quote-unquote Apple product that does have noise canceling. Power Beats Pro.
Ah, yeah. So being a Beats fanboy, are you going to get those?
Probably not. They're $250, so...
Oh, okay. Oh, speaking of $250, that is the price that Apple did not lower the HomePod to. They did lower the price on a HomePod to $299. not $249. But that you just reminded me. Anyway, that's a better price point for, and it's interesting how comparable the price of Beats is to the price of a HomePod.
Yep.
Anyway, I just went off on a rabbit trail. So, womp womp, you're not getting Beats. Oh well.
No, but they do look really cool though. If they weren't $250, I'd probably get them. Because they've got, they're like AirPods, but by Beats. So they're completely wireless.
Mm-hmm.
They've got, I believe they have Hey Siri. I'm gonna pull up the. Oh wow! I just triggered my phone. I'm gonna pull up the website. So
Are they over-ear headphones?
they are in ear.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the
I
information
don't
now
remember-
so I don't get all this wrong.
I don't remember when the last time I used noise-canceling headphones was. I think I've used them like once or twice, but not extensively. And I've always been curious to try noise-canceling in-ear headphones because that
Yeah,
just
I've
seems
tried
like
over ear, and the
very
over ear
different.
are really cool. Okay, what fact was I looking up?
You're looking at the cost of the Powerbeats Pro?
Okay, I did get the cost right. Cost
Okay,
is
good job.
$249.
That's 1 point to you.
Noise canceling. That was what I was looking at.
Okay, that's another point to you.
Uh,
This is a great time to talk about our sponsor for this episode, Beats.
I wish.
Yeah.
Noise isolation. So I guess
Okay.
technically not
Oh,
noise canceling. It's noise
Okay.
isolation. So
All right. Wait, it sounds like the same thing, doesn't it?
not
I
really.
think it's the same thing.
Noise isolation is when it's done with like foam and like actual material. Noise cancellation is where it, like there's a speaker in there that and a microphone in it that like actually cancels out
Oh,
the
okay.
background
But
noise.
the effect is that you don't hear background noise on both of
Yeah.
those, right? Okay. So, cool. We are sound experts now.
Yeah.
We should pivot to being a sound podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already making sounds right now.
Yeah.
How much more of an expert can we get?
I don't think a whole lot.
So those were the press releases from 3-ish weeks ago, and then we had the event the following Monday. Yeah, a week after the iPad press release, there was the event. So
Yeah.
there were a lot of services. There was only one hardware item, and it was a credit card. And some
is mostly a
expectations were
service.
met. Some things that were expected were not announced. Some things that were not expected were announced. So let's just go in the keynote order. First, they talked. The one thing that I noticed was they talked a lot about what services are in general. They even gave a dictionary definition. You watched the keynote, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of it.
Okay. You probably didn't need to see the part where they were trotting out the celebrities. So
Yeah, I kind of stopped just before that.
okay, that's well, good for you. You have initiative. The rest of us were just locked in staring at the screen because we're Apple sheep. Anyway, so they were talking a lot about how services is already an integral part of their business. Like they talked about how Messages is a service, and of course
Yeah.
everybody knows iMessage and Apple Music and all this other stuff. That they were basically framing themselves as a services company before they even explained how they were going to become more of a services company, which I thought was interesting. I don't know how much people bought it because Apple is typically seen as a hardware and software company, and the line between software and services is kind of hard to define because eventually they're both going to be just integrated with one another. But so they were basically talking about how services is not anything new for them, and basically we don't need to worry about them completely failing when they try this new business model. The first actual service they talked about was Apple News Plus.
Yep.
So basically, it's Texture, the service that Apple acquired, I think, last year. For $10 a month, you get access to 300 magazines, and you can read them on your iPhone or iPad. Excuse me. And you can read them on your iPhone or iPad. And There's some question as to how good the reading experience actually is, because you have your Apple News format magazines and you have your PDF magazines. So I have not tried it in person, and I can't vouch for its beauty.
I have not tried it either.
Yeah, I haven't tried it because I'm waiting to have all the bugs worked out, and then I'll use my month-long trial when it counts. So yeah, there's some inconsistency with like what publishers are doing, what formats, and whether they're actually any better than any other service. But basically the Apple promise is that you get a great experience with great content, which is how they're framing all the services. So it looks like a pretty solid offering. I don't think they're expecting it to have a massive user base. But the Mythical Services bundle that's apparently going to launch in the fall, which has not officially been announced, I think that's going to push a lot more people toward Apple News Plus or other services that they would not have otherwise gotten, because, hey, you can include it in a bundle for just $5 more per month or whatever it is. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting product, but the full story isn't going to be here until the fall, when it's part of a bundle and is not just a standalone thing. As a standalone thing, I don't think it's going to be nearly as successful as it would be as part of a bundle. And I think Apple knows that, and they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the service itself, from what you saw of the keynote and what you've read?
I think it's pretty interesting. Personally, I don't know if I would use it a whole lot.
Yeah, same.
Because I don't really read magazines or newspapers or anything like that. Normally it's just short article summaries.
Yeah, even in short articles,
like
I find myself skimming. Yeah, I always find myself skimming for the most important information, even in the shortest of articles. And, like, I've conditioned myself to be used to Twitter, where everything's in 240 characters or less. Wait, no, 280. Character limits are confusing. Anyway, so I'm used to short form information as opposed to long form. And like the thought of sitting down to read a magazine is kind of foreign to people nowadays. But maybe it'll be seen as sort of a retro thing that people like. I don't know. Either way, the full story, once again, is in the bundle, which is MIA. The bundle is the new AirPower. So then the next thing that they talked about was Apple Pay and some advancements that they're making to that. And basically, Apple is becoming a credit card company now. They have a physical credit card, which was the one hardware item that was unveiled. And they also have like basically just a digital credit card that functions like any other card that you would have used with Apple Pay, except now Apple controls the entire experience. Also now Apple Pay Cash requires the Apple Card. You can't use it with any previous accounts. So they're basically locking down the experience and making sure that the best parts of iOS are limited to people who can afford their services. Or it's not like you have to afford an Apple Card, it's just that they're trying to control every aspect of the experience, which in some ways can improve things, but I think this is kind of an unnecessary limitation. So I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to comment on the merits of giving your money to Apple and hoping to pay it back. But I think the promise, once again, is the better experience with the same content and like the same things that you already know. They're taking something familiar and making it more intuitive. And if this does that, then it's going to be worth the marketing pitch. If not, then we'll wait and see. It's not going to be here until summer, so then we'll know. That was actually, a lot of people were very interested in Apple Card. That was probably the thing that interested me the least, just because I personally probably am not going to get one. But well, I'll have to see. A lot of this stuff, I'll just have to wait and see what my opinion will be.
Yeah.
So then the next thing was Arcade, right?
Yeah, I think so. I have it out of order in my notes, but I think you're right.
Okay. Apple Arcade was the one that interested me the most. I'm very excited for
yeah.
this one. I'm probably going to get
Yeah.
it, and I'm probably going to love it because the games look really cool, the game trailers
Oh,
that they
yeah.
showed, and there are even more on the website, and probably even more that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
I think if it's priced right, that's always the asterisk. If it's priced right, it's going to be very successful. I am starting to think that all of these services are going to be $10 per month because that's what Apple Music is, that's what News Plus is, and I think that that's what TV Plus, which we'll get to in a minute, and also what Arcade will cost. Because if it's $40 per month to get them all individually, then the services bundle can be like 25 or 30, and there's a very clear discount. Otherwise, you
Yeah.
have to do all the mental math of like, okay, this one's $7.99 per month, etc. My guideline for it is that I don't think any of them are going to be less expensive than News Plus because I think that one offers the least like value in terms of how much Apple is spending on it. Whereas with TV and music, well, actually not really music so much as Arcade, they're sort of putting in money to invest in having the content available for consumers. But anyway, the games look really good. I think it's a good deal
Oh, yeah.
for the select few developers who are working on it. Not for everybody in the App Store, but for some people it's a good deal.
Yeah.
The developers seem to be responding to it pretty positively.
Yeah.
And obviously people are, not to say developers aren't people, the rest of the people are also appearing to like the look of the games. So
Yeah.
is this one of the ones that you would be interested in subscribing to?
I would be very interested. I'm not sure if I would subscribe because I don't really play that many games to just like to want to subscribe to that.
Mhm.
But I would pretty interested to see what it's like.
Yeah.
If there's a free trial, I'll probably do that.
Yes, I hope there's a free trial.
Yeah.
I want there to be a free trial on everything. Can there be a free trial on the iPads and AirPods?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I do wish the iOS App Store allowed for better free trials for paid apps. That would be really
Yeah.
nice. And I think it would probably drive sales once people realized how worth payment these things are. Yeah, Arcade looks really good. If the games are as high quality as if the games turn out as good as they appear to be, then that'll be great. I don't really have any reason to doubt this one right now.
Yeah.
But again, I'll just have to wait until
Yeah.
summer or whenever it is that it launches to see.
And I don't know if you noticed in the keynote, but the tab where Arcade goes, that's where Updates was.
Yep, I noticed that, and I was.
What are they going to do with that?
I guess they'll force everybody to do automatic updates or updates like purchase
Via
history,
3D
etc.
Touch?
will be relegated to the account section of the App Store. Like
Yeah. Maybe.
if you go to the App Store and then in the top right you'll see your Apple ID profile picture, and then there's just a bunch of like random stuff there, like subscription
Yeah.
management. I think they could put updates up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm glad that there's going to be a dedicated Arcade tab in the App Store.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Although if
pretty
they
good.
put the Updates button there, it'll be like Android and all hidden.
Oh well, yeah. Oh well. I think that Arcade definitely deserves a tab more than Updates does.
Oh, yeah.
Because with Updates you have the solution of having automatic updates.
Yeah. And 3D Touch to get to it.
Yeah. And another part of this is that the apps will be cross-platform, like the
Yeah.
games will. So I wonder how much of the Marzipan frameworks those will use. I know you can make a cross-platform game without Marzipan, but I do
Yeah.
think that Apple's going to push that pretty heavily because they're waiting until summer to debut Arcade, and maybe they'll talk a lot about it at WWDC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm going to like the Marzipan apps themselves, but for games, I don't really see too much of an issue. I don't know. I'll have to test it for
Yeah,
myself.
not really yet.
Yeah, I'm still hopeful that developers don't just do direct ports of iOS apps and make that
yeah.
enough. I think you could definitely improve the iOS apps interfaces if you optimize
Yeah.
them for macOS. I don't have any problem with the underlying structure being shared, but the interfaces need to be optimized.
Yeah.
But with games, it's not real. It doesn't really matter that much, I don't think.
No, not really.
So then after Arcade, there was the big one, the big service that everybody had been expecting, Apple TV Plus. Nobody was really sure what they were going to call it. They called it TV Plus. That's sort of like the easy way out name.
Yeah.
They had a lot of celebrities. I'm not even going to talk about all the individual shows because we didn't really learn anything about them. I'm
Yeah,
going
and
to
I
do my
didn't
best
even-
not to acknowledge the existence of TV Plus in future writing because there's so little that we actually know
Yeah.
that it's not worth discussing because we can't make an accurate
Yeah.
judgment. I'm not saying that's a bad thing because I really just think that the purpose of this event was not to give people information, but to appease the Hollywood gods who have been wondering what Apple's doing in the TV business, and they couldn't wait another few months. So this was
Yeah.
really just to get out the news that TV Plus is coming, and because everything else could have waited until September to be announced. It wasn't really that
Yeah.
important to give the preliminary information on Arcade or Card or anything like that. Because we don't know what TV Plus is going to cost. We don't know many of the important details.
Yeah.
Another part of the Apple TV story is TV channels, which is basically just Amazon Prime channels. There's not really much to it. It's just,
Yeah.
went into full screen. An easier way to subscribe to other services and presumably also give Apple money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think TV channels is, I guess, just it's good that they have a Prime channel as competitor, but it's not like
Yeah.
anything massive. But not everything has to be a revolution. That's
Yeah.
what Apple TV Plus is for. I think the TV shows sound kind of interesting. I'm not going to go into the details on the individual ones, but I guess overall it seems like they're going to have a pretty good lineup because they have
Yeah.
lots of celebrities, as we saw. We saw many times.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it was good the first time with Steven Spielberg, but after that it was a bit repetitive. Anyway,
Yeah, I didn't even get to that part.
oh, they turned out all the lights, and then when they took them back up, Steven Spielberg was there, and then they did that for every celebrity who came on stage, so that really diluted the effect. It was just kind of strange. It was Apple trying to do a Hollywood event, and Apple doesn't really know how to do Hollywood events, I guess.
Yeah.
Surprise. But this is the future. I'm glad that Apple overall is willing to keep on thinking different than it used to and find new revenue streams because the iPhone ain't going to last forever. But
The Mac
in
ain't
the
either.
interim period, it's a bit weird to have this kind of awkward presentation.
Yeah.
So I think TV Plus is probably going to cost $9.99 per month, just as News Plus does.
Yeah.
I think News Plus
I'm
is
actually
basically
thinking more $14.99.
I don't think so. If they do, then they'll push the bundle really heavily as a heavy discount. I think the bundle
Yeah.
they're going to shoot for $25 or $30 per month. But I don't think that they're going to. I think they're going to try to keep TV Plus priced around the same as Netflix and the other competitors. And I don't think anybody else has gone that high yet. I think if it's
Yeah.
$10 per month individually, and they have 4 different main services, that would be Music, News Plus, Arcade, and TV Plus. Those 4 services at $10 per month each would total $40 individually, but you can get them all for just $25 or $30. So that would push a lot of people toward getting a new free service, like somebody who otherwise would not use Apple News Plus would use it because, hey, it's there as part of the bundle. Yeah. So there are 4 services: News Plus, TV Plus, Arcade, and Music. Which, if you could only pick 2 of those to have, which would they be?
Probably Music and Arcade.
I think that's what I would say too. I could get by on Spotify. Like, I don't have a problem with Spotify. I just use Apple Music. Like, I don't even know why I use it. It's just it's kind of convenient and well integrated with the rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Basically, I
that's
just
why
use it
like
because
so
it's
much.
always there, out of the box, which some people think is anti-competitive, but we'll get into that sometime in the future. So yeah, I would also pick arcade and music because TV Plus, like, I mean, I really just care about having The Office, and TV Plus doesn't have The Office. So with a TV streaming service, I don't know what Apple really has to offer as compared to, say, Netflix, for me personally. And I don't really care about magazines, so News Plus would be superfluous to me. But arcade is something that I care about because I do play games, and also music. Obviously, I listen to music. I listen to music basically all day.
Yep.
Or podcasts. I find that music is just very helpful for concentration. Like, so total silence is not very good for
I
me.
cannot
Every once in a
concentrate
while, I
in
need to
total
pause,
silence. I also can't stand still at all.
but wait. Okay, go completely silent for 10
Oh,
seconds.
great. Hopefully I counted right.
Yep, that was correct. I was watching the QuickTime window go up. Yep, that was 10 seconds of pure silence, and it felt like an
Oh, yeah.
eternity. So, yeah, music is good. That's the lesson to be
Yeah.
learned. Yeah, those are the two services I would choose. It would be arcade and music, because games and music are life. Not really. There's more to life. There's also Twitter. But Twitter is not a paid subscription, luckily.
That would be disappointing.
So what other Apple stuff has happened recently? We have rumors of the 2019 iPhone models. Could you give a quick rundown of what the rumors are saying?
Sort of a similar design with like the full screen or whatever.
I heard they were bringing back the old bezels and the home button.
Oh, really?
No, I'm kidding.
But the cameras, that camera bump is going to be huge.
Yes, it is. And rather unsightly.
Yeah, they aren't really aligned. Well, the
Yeah.
cameras are aligned right, but the flash is in a weird spot that's not
It's
right.
If you look at it, if you turn it sideways, you'll see it sort of forms a W. There are the three cameras and then the microphone and the flash, and it forms a sideways W. It's weird,
Yeah.
but in a very strange way, it is symmetrical. It's sort of made worse by the fact that the flash is so much bigger than the microphone. But
Just make the microphone that big.
I feel like, it's just so weird. I feel like I would eventually get used to it, but it's not the best option. I would rather have a vertical 3-camera array and a flash on the side. But I would not be surprised if that's what Apple does. I always take rumors with a grain of salt, especially this early in the season, because rumors are going to be flying like crazy. But also apparently they're going to have bilateral wireless charging, like the Samsung Galaxy S10. So you'll be able to charge your watch and AirPods, etc., from the iPhone.
That would be cool.
From the back of the iPhone, not the screen. I want to see wireless charging through the screen of a phone.
That would be really interesting.
I mean, it would be pointless because you wouldn't be able to use the screen while charging anything.
Yeah.
So it would offer no utility whatsoever.
Yeah.
But hey, that's what the smartphone industry is best at.
What if they put AirPower
Non-useful
in the back
features.
of an iPhone?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is what it would essentially be, except with only one charging spot.
Yeah.
So never mind, not really. It would be a single device charger on the back of an iPhone.
Yeah, but that would be cool. Like,
that's what is apparently
only
rumored.
you bring your phone and one charging cable, and you can charge all your devices using your phone.
That is the
would
dream.
be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that with Samsung phones. So if you want to switch, you can do that. Tell me
I'd
all
rather
about it.
not.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my iPhone.
Yes.
I don't think the Samsung Galaxy S10 looks terrible though. If I had to pick a Samsung phone, it would be either that or the Pixel 3.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the Galaxy S10, the design is not too bad. It's weird compared to other designs.
I'd rather get one of the older models.
But it's interesting.
I don't really the cutout isn't really it's kind of hard to describe, but they're missing padding on the bottom of it. So there's
Yeah.
space around the top and the side, but not the bottom.
Right. Like in the software, they
Yeah.
don't add the padding. Yeah, it's weird. If I had to choose, I would take basically any of those notch or cutout designs, but I would make the status bar black, so it would be
Yeah.
hidden.
I believe you can do that on
that
the
would.
Pixel.
Oh yeah, yeah. Although with the Pixel, the notch is so thick that it's insanely ugly. But yeah, I would take an iPhone 10 style display with a black status bar, because then you save the space where the status bar would have gone if it were a full bezel, but you also get slimmer bezels. I would kill for an iPhone with no notch at all, with the sensors under the
That
screen.
would be really
That's
cool.
going to be pretty cool looking. Because, like, when I think probably in 2020 or 2021 is when they'll be able to eliminate those compromises, and smartphone design will essentially have reached perfection. And then we will all wonder, what now? Because there's nothing more to improve. I can't wait to see whether the 2019 iPhones have flat edges like the iPad Pro and iPhone SE
Yeah.
and all the previous iPhones. Those will be pretty cool to see if
Yeah.
that does happen. So then the last thing we have to talk about is AirPower, which is not, it just isn't. AirPower is no more.
Yep.
So what is your take on this? Why do you think they had to cancel it?
I'm thinking technical limitations,
Okay.
because they had to fit so many coils into a really thin wireless charger to make it
Right. So
the product that they announced.
for background for people who are listening, traditional multi-device wireless chargers have three separate, or essentially three separate chargers stacked together. There are three different places where you can put a device, but you have to land the device on one of those three locations or it won't get any charge. It's like bad cell reception, except with charging. What AirPower was going to do was have 21 to 24 coils that would eliminate the need for you to place your device on a certain spot, and you could place any of the devices on any of those locations, even the Apple Watch, which used a different charging standard than the iPhone did. So basically, they had to fit a lot more heat and power management into essentially the same size device, which apparently proved to be a technical difficulty. Apparently, it was a fire hazard at one point in its development. But there were some signs that AirPower was being prepared for mass production, which makes me think that they did get it to work. They just couldn't make it work at massive volumes that they wanted to ship.
Yeah.
So there are probably slightly functional AirPower mats sitting somewhere in a facility, abandoned and to be discovered by archaeologists in thousands of years. But yeah, we don't get them. I guess it was a mix of technical difficulties and supply chain problems, because it was probably difficult to manufacture that at scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, so a lot of people have said that Apple did the right thing by canceling AirPower, and people who say that are definitely missing the point, because nobody is arguing that Apple should have shipped flaming charging mats, because obviously it's bad to ship fire hazards.
Yeah.
What people are saying is that Apple should not have pre-announced the product before it was certain that it could make it work. Phil Schiller said on stage in 2017 that the team knew how to do this, but apparently the team did not know how to do this, or at least they couldn't manufacture it. So the problem was the decision to announce AirPower before it even needed to be announced, or even could honestly be announced.
Yeah.
So that is the problem people have. The problem is not that the problem isn't that people wanted Apple to ship a product that would not work. They just shouldn't have announced it. So would you have been interested in AirPower?
I wouldn't really have a use for it. I don't have any wirelessly charging devices, so it would just be,
Oh, you peasant.
yeah, it'd be like a $200 paperweight that might catch on fire.
Yeah, I wonder what it would have cost. I think it would have cost anywhere between $159 and $199.
Yeah.
Or like $149, I guess, is the lowest.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Because it probably wasn't cheap. And maybe it turned out that it was just too expensive
Yeah.
for them to sell.
Yeah.
Like they would have had to charge $300 per mat to make their investment back, and they knew they wouldn't do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. It's going to remain a mystery probably for a long time. I don't know when we'll find anything out. So I think that concludes our discussion of the main three Apple things that happened.
Yep.
The press releases, the event, and AirPower's death.
Yep.
So unless you have any final thoughts, I think it's time to call it quits.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
And I will see you hopefully next week.
Maybe.
That's reassuring.